I'm Lizanne Flynn. I'm a master healer who holds space for any earthling as they reunite body and soul. I'm a bridge for relationships between all species so that the heart bond becomes stronger, deeper, and more loving. I serve in the roles of animal communicator, medium, and medical intuitive, and I use the tools of shamanic journeying and soul retrieval to support all earthlings in their recovery from past trauma. I'm certified as a canine massage therapist and Reiki master teacher. This is the Animals iView podcast. Happy New Year to one and all across the planet. And although it's not necessary to include the animals in our New Year's greetings, I'm confident they'll feel the emotion behind it, our joy tinged with perhaps bittersweet memories of what was, and even a bit of anxiety about what will be. Time doesn't exist for them in the way that it does for us, and a quote attributed to Einstein, heavy emphasis on the attributed to part, time is an illusion. And even if Einstein or Tesla or any other notable physicist didn't say it, the animals would agree that more accurately, the keeping of time is an illusion. For sure, they know the sunrises and the sunsets, the keeping of the tides by the moon, the seasons, and other on and off planetary caretakers. It's more that they know this present moment really, really well, and perhaps in ways that we simply cannot fathom in our current version of human experience. Let's see, what number shall we call it? 6,034. And at least that's what I'm hearing. And you all know by now that I follow the lead of the universe. So it's pointing me to numerology and adding up the 6,034 as one does to distill it down into a singular number for guidance and support. So 6 plus 3 plus 4, the 0 is silent, equals 11. When we then add 1 plus 1 to get 2, and I'm reminded of the quote by Galileo Galilei, "The laws of nature are written by the hand of God in the language of mathematics," and, which I usually reverse, "the laws of mathematics are written in the language of nature." With this fixed design planet, it's good to have a solid foundation of how stuff works, and right now, it's fair to say humans do not. At the very least, I think we can do better. Leading off from the number 2 and quoting from the link in the podcast notes, the numerology number 2 is known to numerologists as a supremely feminine force, one that represents both grace and power. It is cooperative, always aiming to bring peace and balance back to a relationship or situation. This numerology number is also very sensitive. Of all the numbers, it has the strongest intuition. It is able to sense currents and feelings instinctively and then use these clues to connect with others empathically. At its very core, the 2 in numerology represents partnerships, the coming together or balancing of two individual people, concepts, or things. While it holds great power over any situation, it wields it with such diplomacy and tact that the result is not control and authority, but harmony and teamwork. It is a mediator able to see two sides of a situation in an unbiased way and guide others down the middle road. Quoting from our frenemy AI, science being the other one, of course, the animals have already addressed their perception of AI in a previous podcast. Here's the list from AI from the interwebs about the number 2. Represents duality and balance, symbolizing partnerships and relationships. Often associated with cooperation and teamwork. It signifies sensitivity and intuition, harmony and peace, promoting diplomacy. Sounds pretty much same. In mathematics, and I found this fascinating, it is the smallest and first prime number. It symbolizes choices and decisions, often indicating a fork in the road. In various cultures, it can represent duality in nature, such as light and dark. In tarot, the number 2 is linked to the high priestess, representing intuition and mystery. In astrology, it is associated with the moon, emphasizing emotions and nurturing. And in Chinese culture, the number 2 is considered lucky, often symbolizing harmony in relationships. Out of all of these, what resonates the most to me is the unified duality that's possible with the number 2. simply because it's not one, right? It's one plus one. So its very essence is about joining with, at the very least, one other, as two cannot exist without one, numerically and otherwise. And as far as our evolutionary path goes, it's not a coincidence about where we are, RN, or right now, as the kids would say. It remains to be seen if we can perceive the duality on the planet, in the animals, and in ourselves and each other as something that needs unity versus the stiff arm out to the side of, nope, I reject you and therefore you don't exist, which, as the animals say on chorus, never works well for anyone. Chickens coming home to roost and all. And speaking of chicken, what an awkward segue. The collective of raptors are eager to join in the conversation, even given the difference in their separate classifications according to humans. Meaning, a hawk is not a falcon, is not an eagle, yet all are raptors and apex predators within their specific ecosystems. As predators, they are charged with partnership and balance with their particular groups of prey and supporting the overall health and maintenance of both identities, which is something that humans tend to forget. Without their predators, the numbers of prey can grow out of proportion to their prey, which may be insects and/or plants, leaving the soil and the waterways, which house all beings, at danger of being shifted too much or too little in this amazingly intricate yet incredibly tough and sturdy design on Earth. Conversely, too many predators can leave their prey overly consumed, which also impacts the trickle-down effect, or trophic cascade, which by definition is an ecological phenomenon triggered by the addition or removal of top predators and involving reciprocal changes in the relative populations of predator and prey through a food chain. A trophic cascade often results in dramatic changes in ecosystem structure and nutrient cycling. And maybe this is ringing an uncomfortable bell for you about how our species, as both apex predator and prey, have perhaps overemphasized the predatory imperative we want to claim as ours, while at the same time also overemphasizing in relation to the predatory aspect our prey aspect that we have a tendency to victimize. I'm hearing now the animals say, hey, we didn't write the rules, and we do think everyone should play fairly within them. Touché. The link in the podcast notes about the differences between the families of raptor, eagle, hawk, and falcon is good to have handy the next time you're out and about in nature, as well as looking on the interwebs for a birding app such as Merlin that can guide you in discerning the difference between the three. Certainly, it may be that their feathers are similar enough between them, especially hawk and falcon, to cause even the most experienced birder to second-guess their original identification. That's on the surface, though. Underneath, they are all tied together with a more or less invisible string of hunting in order to feed themselves and their offspring and to nurture the very environment in which they live side by side with their prey. Resident human perspective has been and still is to keep as far away as possible from our fellow predators, so much so that we've become out of touch with our partnership with them. I'll say for another podcast the whole elevation of the health of our species above all others, and if we have done the appropriate thing in prolonging our lives at the cost of theirs. You can probably guess the animal's answer, nope. It does bring to mind, though, another perhaps awkward segue for the listener, but not for the animals, how the seemingly disparate connection of the body and medical intuition, so to speak, has more or less not been allowed to evolve. I cannot tell you the number of times that an organ, a system, a past injury, or present illness has been shared with me by an animal client when their guardian and the vet have had no idea as to what's wrong. It's as if we're stuck at the number 2 level in duality, and that we're not allowing or have allowed or nurtured in any way the body's outstanding ability to heal and work with that as a foundational piece of certainly traditional medicine. Our species' penchant for allowing another human who isn't even a part of our physical body to diagnose and treat said body doesn't allow for the feathers of our inner knowing and anatomical wisdom to be extended. Moreover, it continually widens the gap between our vehicle on this planet, the body, and the captains of that vehicle, your soul, and that awareness. For animals, their relationship with their bodies is much more intimate than is ours. And it's given rise to beliefs from our original perspective that they were more stoic. And at one point in time, we thought that they didn't feel pain, which was patently ridiculous. Of course, they feel what we feel as far as pain, pleasure, and the like. They have, most of them, a skeletal structure, deepened superficial musculature, and underpinning all of that is a profoundly sensitive nervous system. Unlike human experience, animals understand the immediate message of the pain and refrain from slipping into the, oh, darn, now my body is broken and I'm vulnerable and it has to be fixed betrayal. They embrace the physical realignment that needs to happen and set their intention for only that, while we may remain fixated on the emotional rebound of something being, air quotes, wrong. We're meant to have a deep understanding of the ouch that presents itself. And yes, it's been good and beneficial to have books that healers once wrote in, which they cataloged their typically plant-based remedies and synergies of the same that supported the body's shift toward realignment. It's been good and beneficial to our communities to have individuals in roles where their care for a group of people in a community allowed them overview of temporary conditions affecting more than one member. What hasn't been as good is for the knowledge of the body to be held away from the owner of that body and only accessed by those who profess to have such knowledge and by those who are capable of, at least here in the U.S., buying access to such knowledge. Keep in mind, though, the difference between knowledge and wisdom. You can know all about the gazillion and 55 aspects of the body itself and still lack even the basic wisdom of how to deeply listen to the murmurs and whispers of the body before they become a shout of rage at being ignored for far too long. We're guilty of so much reductionism in medicine that the murmurs and whispers are drowned by facts about how a system operates and not your connection to that system, which you own, along with several others, while you're here on Earth. You're not to blame for the issue itself, and honestly, no animal on the planet would say, well, gosh, both mom and pops had a heart murmur, and so it's no surprise that I have that as well. Are there limits to any species afforded time on Earth based on physiological design? Yes, of course there are. Worker bees live but for a season in the summer, while blue whale lives for 80 to 90 years. The same goes for humans, except we do want that lifespan number to increase upward, and we take great pride at not transitioning at 35 to 40 years of age, much like our ancestors did a mere 200 years ago. Again, the animals ask the question, what are you losing in the translation of so much knowledge without also increasing the depth of your wisdom that is passed along to each successive generation? Why are you not teaching your children to listen to their bodies and to increase that listening during each phase of growth of their physical form, like puberty, and then again in quasi-reverse during menopause and general aging? Why is it not possible to have a deep intuitive sense of your body alongside your medical facts, like birds of a feather, so that partnership and balance comes more easily to you and your path becomes gentled with wisdom as you age? Why are you opting out of this deep self-awareness simply because you might not like the answers you're being given? And at least that's how the animals see it. Thanks for listening today. Leave a review and be sure to subscribe to this podcast. I offer all new clients a free 15-minute consultation. To schedule online, go to lizanneflynn.com. Come and find me on social media, Facebook, Twitterverse, Blue Sky, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I encourage you to sign up for my quarterly newsletter and my website, where I also post notices for upcoming events, the starting date of courses in the Animals iView Academy, and online psychic fairs. The episodes of this podcast are available on my YouTube channel, complete with subtitles. You'll find that link in my podcast footer, and be sure to subscribe. This has been the Animals iView podcast. I'll see you next time. Thank you.